State of the Division. Welcome to it. It is Monday, June 13th. I'm Peter Appel. That's Sam Luckini, and we're breaking down what's been going on in the AL East. We are the Monday edition of State of the Division. Sam, what's going on? You have a player from each team, kind of the player of the week, and I have a bit of a rundown on how each team has been doing in the past week. But how are you doing? How was your week?
I'm incredible. Week's great. I'm in a new spot. You guys see the new setup in the background, so that's great. I do want to wish you happy Cal Quantrill Day because he shoved yet again today. And this is our first recording together. So I'm like super stoked for this right now. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome. And I wish Cal Quantrill was in the AL East so we could break him down because he's got a 3.32 ERA. And I will continue to say that he is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Is he actually? I don't know, but he performs like it. Let's start in the top of the AL East with our New York Yankees, because we are both Yankee fans, but we are also objective journalists. But there's nothing objective about saying that the Yankees are the best team in baseball right now. They are 43-16 as we record. They're currently playing the Cubs, but they have a plus 113 run differential. They are 9-1 in their last 10 games. And the pitching really has been the story with this team all year. They rank second in ERA, first in WHIP, first in walks per nine, third in Ks per nine, fourth in hits per nine, seventh in home runs per nine, and the offense is led by Aaron Judge. What has sparked the Yankees this week?
Well, in all honesty, it starts with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is my hitter of the week for the New York Yankees. He's been raking all season, but this past week, he slashed 316, 440, 842 with a 226 WRC plus. He had the 2 home run game on Saturday night against the Chicago Cubs. 6 RBIs last week. Is he the best hitter on the planet right now, Peter?
It's hard to say that he's not. He's certainly the front runner for American League MVP. You know, the best hitter on the planet is still probably Mike Trout, but if you look at the numbers, it's Aaron Judge, and it's not even that close. I mean, of course, it's somewhat close, but Aaron Judge has really taken a hold of this. He has 24 home runs. The Detroit Tigers have 30 home runs. That's how good Aaron Judge has been. What about on the pitching side? Because I said it at the beginning, the pitching has been what's the story with the Yankees. And day in and day out, they always have a chance to win because more often than not, they have the starting pitching advantage. But a guy like Nestor Cortez just had a rough start. Garrett Cole just had a rough start. But J-Mo and Severino and Tyone have been fantastic. What pitcher this week were you a little bit nervous about? Are you a little nervous about Nestor? Are you a little nervous about Cole? What are you thinking?
I do think that there will be not necessarily a fall off with Nestor, but kind of a come down to earth kind of thing, what we saw this week. He wasn't great in that start, but that was just one bad start that he's had this year. You know Garrett Cole's going to be Garrett Cole. He's going to be incredible. It's a one blip thing. I mean, the 3 home runs back to back to start the game was a little bit tough. But then last week with this rotation, what did they give up? 3 earned runs through 7 days, something crazy like that, right?
Unbelievable.
This week, it was a little bit different. Some of the guys got banged up, but one guy that I do want to highlight this week is Jordan Montgomery, who in all honesty is probably the most underrated pitcher right now on this staff. We talked about Jameson Taillon a lot last week. He threw the perfect game bid, but Jordan Montgomery was incredible against Chicago. 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, 5 strikeouts, no walks, and no earned runs, man. This entire pitching staff right now clicking on all cylinders, and Jordan Montgomery is probably the most underrated guy on the staff.
And right now, the Yankees, according to Fangraphs, have a 99.9% probability of making the playoffs. That's a pretty good start to the season so far. Let's move into the second place Blue Jays because their offense has started to heat up. Now they rank 6th in baseball in batting average, 6th in OBP, 5th in OPS, 15th in runs scored, 9th in home runs. We're finally seeing Bo Bichette start to take hold. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Teoscar Hernandez has had a great week. And the Toronto Blue Jays are now 34-24. They sit 8.5 games back of the Yankees with a plus 28 run differential, which is the 3rd best in the division. Yet they sit in 2nd place and they are 6-4 in their last 10. Also, big news out of Toronto, their best prospect overall, Gabriel Moreno, who's a top 10 prospect on justbaseball.com, on every prospect outlet you're going to find. He just had his debut. It's really excited to see him and Alejandro Kirk, because Kirk is probably going to be the starter in the American League at catcher. They just have a huge surplus now of really talented young catchers. But who sparked the Blue Jays this week? Who's your player of the week?
So I'm going to go right back to it with what you were talking about with Alejandro Kirk this week. He tallied a 233 WRC plus, hit 500. got on base at a 5.63 clip, slugged 571 last week. Only 4 games this week. He missed the 1 game and 16 plate appearances, but he's still raking. And that's my all-star starter catcher. I mean, really, outside of him, and to go back with the Yankees with Jose Trevino, he's been incredible this year. It's got to be Kirk, and he's been so good, and he's been massive for this team. And like you said, with Moreno coming up now, what kind of role is Moreno going to play with Kirk? And I guess it's going to be kind of a platoon job. And Danny Jansen's still there, and he's not all that bad.
Yeah, it seems like I would say that they're going to trade one of them, right? You know, Hyunjin Ryu just went down with forearm tightness. That is scary for them because now they're down an arm. With Berrios struggling, with Kikuchi kind of being a bit inconsistent. Kikuchi has been overall fine, but just a bit inconsistent from start to start. Manoah and Gosman are just fantastic, but they really need a starter. I'd be interested to see if they package maybe a Zach Collins. Maybe they take Danny Jansen and they go get a starting pitcher, possibly some help in the bullpen as well, because that's where I see the issue with this team. I mean, if we're talking about their bullpen right now, they're 20th in Ks per 9, 18th in ERA, 13th in WHIP. This is a very talented division. They're going to need some bullpen help. I assume that they, at the trade deadline, Jansen, Collins, or possibly Moreno could be available, but they would have to be blown out of the water to give up on Moreno because he is incredibly talented.
Absolutely. So let's move to a pitcher, because I do want to talk about a guy that you just talked about just a little bit ago, and he was struggling really early on this year. This guy, Jose Berrios, is somebody that I did not want to see pitch at all last year. Against our Yankees, he might have been one of the scariest pitchers that I saw all of last year. But, dude, he's starting to heat up, man. He's starting to get good. Friday against Detroit, 8 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run, and 5 Ks. Back-to-back great outings. Like, he's starting to heat up finally. Against Minnesota, 7 innings pitched, 2 earned runs over 7. So he's starting to heat up, and I think he's going to be instrumental for this team. I think they make the playoffs still. I'm still very high on them. Like you mentioned with Manoah and Gosman, I think, that 3-headed monster is really going to be so pivotal for them. With that bullpen struggling, they're going to need those guys to go deep. So Berrios is finally starting to heat up, and I love to see it.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the third place Tampa Bay Rays. They currently sit at 34-25, just 9 games back of the Yankees, only a half game behind the Blue Jays with a plus 16 run differential. The offense for the Rays has not gotten going. They've only scored 13 more runs than the Orioles, and they haven't been able to sniff the Red Sox, Blue Jays, or Yankees. But the story is, of course, the pitching with the Tampa Bay Rays. Who is your player of the week for these Tampa Bay Rays? Because they are winning so many one-run games, but unfortunately, something that might hurt them, Andrew Kittredge is going down with Tommy John surgery, their best bullpen piece. That's not good for them. But guys like Jeffrey Springs, Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, and now they have Shane Baz finally back. Who was the person to spark the Rays this week?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be McClanahan, right? I mean, he threw 8 scoreless, 2 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts against St. Louis this week. I mean, he's one of the best young pitchers in the game. We're seeing this. He could start the All-Star game. It could be Nestor, it could be Verlander, it could be McClanahan, but he's been incredible for this Rays team this year. Ji-Man Choi also really dealing with some injuries this year, kind of back. He played 4 games this week. He had a 210 WRC plus over his 16 plate appearances. So this Rays team, man, I don't know where this offense just goes completely dead sometimes. And I don't know if they're going to get that consistent spark from a Ji-Man Choi. I don't know if he's going to be that guy for the rest of the year. They really need Wander to start heating up. That's their big piece. They need him to start heating up.
I mean, they need Wander to get healthy first off, but it's funny. You look at the starting pitchers where they rank in terms of stats, even the bullpen too. Like the bullpen is 7th in ERA and the starting rotation is 7th in ERA and 3rd in WHIP and 3rd in walks per 9 and 6th in strikeouts per 9. But if you look at the offense, they rank 24th in batting average, 26th in on-base percentage, 23rd in OPS. They're not really hitting home runs, but the thing is they're 3rd in stolen bases. That's how they're going to manufacture runs this year. But when you look at their roster, it's not that scary, but it is deep. And I do think that they're going to heat up later with the bats. But right now, this offense just doesn't scare me. And when you look at where they rank, it makes sense.
This team feels different from last year. I just feel like last year, this team, you did not want to play the Tampa Bay Rays. Nobody wanted to walk into the Trop and play those guys, even if they were coming to you. I just don't think they're as scary as they were. And like you mentioned with the lineup, Peter, they're just not producing at the level that we're used to seeing with them. But, I do still think that they make the playoffs. I do think they win 94, 95 games, but they're just not, they don't feel the same like they did in the past.
Yeah, right now, just to go back for the Blue Jays have a 96.9% chance of making the playoffs, according to Fangraphs, and the Rays are at 65.2%. Let's move on to the fourth place Boston Red Sox, who are heating up. 31-29 record. They're 12 and a half back, but they're 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they have a plus 38 run differential. It's actually better than the Rays. It's better than the Blue Jays. And just to kind of see where they rank, because the pitching has been pretty solid for them, especially a guy like Nick Pivetta. Nate Eovaldi has looked better of late. They now sit 8th in ERA and 6th in WHIP, their starting rotation, and 4th in batting average for the offense. This is turning into a pretty solid team. But again, it's the bullpen that is going to hurt them in the long run, I think. Right now, they've been okay this season so far. They rank 11th in ERA and 10th in WHIP. But if I could be completely honest with you, when I look at the roster in that back end, now that Garrett Whitlock is confirmed a starter for them, it doesn't look great. But nonetheless, this week is what we're talking about, and the Red Sox are 8-2 in their last 10 games. They are rolling right now. Who is the player that sparked the Red Sox this week?
I still don't understand the Whitlock thing, to be honest with you. Like before, I just want to tap that. The fact that he's not in the bullpen doesn't make any sense to me. I think he should be their
such a good
closer
starter, bro.
I don't know. Like, but they need somebody like that's so reliable and dominant at the back half of that bullpen. I don't know, but it is what it is. They're the Boston Red Sox, and they won 8 out of their last 10, so I can't really get on them about that. But there are two guys that I want to talk about here. Michael Wacha did get banged up a little bit last night. He had 3 earned runs in 4 innings last night. But beginning of the week, through a complete game shutty against the Angels, he shoved against Ohtani, gassed him up. That was a crazy clip. And another guy starting to heat up that I was completely ready to give up on. You were ready to give up on him because you think the Red Sox are going to trade for Josh Bell. But Bobby Dalbec is now hitting 204 WRC plus last week, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. Do you think he's going to be this good for forever? Or like, is he finally starting to figure it out? Or is he just, on one of these highs?
I think he's on one of these highs because when he's connecting with the ball and he's seeing the ball well, he has immense power and he can definitely hit the ball out of the ballpark. My thinking is he hasn't shown consistency enough for me to believe that this is a true thing. I think he's hot right now. Great for Bobby Dalbec. If he's hitting home runs, great for the Red Sox. But I think long-term, Tristan Casas is the answer at first base, their best prospect. And the reason why I pitched the Josh Bell to the Red Sox trade was because I think that the Red Sox could use a left-handed bat. Josh Bell is a switch hitter, but he's better from the left side, and they could definitely use that. Josh Bell is also a rental, which helps them too, because Casas, he has an injury right now, a wrist injury. I don't think that they're going to rush him to the major leagues so quickly because why? You don't want to hurt his development, especially if he's injured. Get Josh Bell, make that lineup just a bit deeper, get another lefty in there to separate all those right-handed bats. I think that's the smart move for them. And we've heard that Xander Bogaerts will be on the trade block, but I think there's almost no shot now. The Red Sox are battling and they have the second best run differential in the division. And I think that they will be here at the end of the year, really, because if you look at where Fangraphs projects them at a 50-50 shot right now, 50.4% to make the playoffs. Sam, if I put a gun to your head and said, do you think the Red Sox make the playoffs? Yes or no?
Yes, because with the Angels fall off a couple weeks ago, I had the Angels in the playoffs, and now they're in a very different place than they were just a couple weeks ago. Obviously, they went on the 15-game losing streak, and I figured that they would sneak into that wild card spot. But now I do think, Peter, that these 4 American League East teams are all going to make the playoffs, just because I think there's so much talent. The Red Sox could win 92 games this year. They could win 92 games and finish 4th place in their division, but they would still make the playoffs because of the expanded playoffs this year. So, and the front 4 that I saw last night of Story, Devers, Martinez, and Bogaerts might be one of the scariest in the MLB.
It honestly might be one of the scariest. Their offense is loaded and their starting pitching has been pretty solid. I've been saying it and I believe it. But now we move on to the 5th place Orioles. They're 25-35. It just stinks for them because they're in this incredibly tough division. And I don't think they're as bad as their record shows. They have a negative 41 run differential, which is not ideal. And they currently have a 0.0% chance of making the playoffs, unfortunately. But they haven't been too bad lately. I mean, they're 4-6 in their last 10 games. Seems like Trey Mancini is starting to heat up a little bit. Looks like Cedric Mullins is starting to heat up as well. And, they've gotten decent performances from guys like Jordan Lyles, from Tyler Wells, but Bruce Zimmerman is starting to kind of blow up a little bit. Who's the player that sparked the Orioles this week?
It's got to be Anthony Santander. I mean, this team isn't great. They're the Baltimore Orioles, I think, are the best bad team in baseball. When you look at that like group of like bottom 6 teams in the league, I think they're the best out of that bunch. But Anthony Santander this week, 214 WRC plus. They only played 4 games, so he played in 3 of them. He slashed 364, 462, 636, 1 home run, 2 RBIs. I mean, they're not great. And that's like the one guy that you can kind of highlight from this week. And he had a great second half last year, and I guess he's starting to heat up now, which is good to see. But yeah, he was good this week.
And I think when we talk about the Orioles, it's important to talk about what's next, because I don't think this is the Orioles year. And I think Orioles fans know that. But what we've been seeing in the minor leagues is that Gunnar Henderson, their young shortstop prospect, is killing it. Adley Rutschman got the call, and he's hitting below 200 right now, but he's going to heat up because he's one of the great prospects in the entire sport. We talked about Gabriel Moreno. Adley Rutschman is just a better prospect than Gabriel Moreno is, and there's a ton of hype around Gabriel Moreno for great reason. But unfortunately, their top pitching prospect, Grayson Rodriguez, looks like he may be out for the entire year. I predicted, well, not predicted, more trades I'd like to see. Cedric Mullins going over to the San Francisco Giants in exchange for Luis Matos, Casey Schmidt, and a couple other prospects as well. Or Matt McCluskey was the prospect that I threw in there for them. I think it's might be time to trade Cedric Mullins from the Orioles. By the time the Orioles are really good, I don't know if Cedric Mullins will be in their plans. And I think you have to capitalize on that 30-30 season. And because I don't know if he's ever going to reach that again. And I know he's going to be expensive because he still has years of control, but I think the time is now to trade away Cedric Mullins. I think they could look at a trade for Anthony Santander. But what's been the bright spot of the Orioles all season long has been the bullpen. The Orioles rank 6th in bullpen ERA, and they don't really give up any homers. Walks and hits per innings pitched, they rank 12th in WHIP, so not too bad. But overall, the Orioles bullpen has been solid. Dylan Tate, Batista, they have a lot of guys back there, a lot of trade chips for a lot of contenders who will need bullpen help. That's where the Orioles can start to cash in and really look towards maybe 2024, 2025. That looks like the window.
Yeah, for sure. With this Orioles team, like I said, they're fun. I like them. I guess because I'm local. A lot of my friends are Orioles fans, so it's very, I can sympathize with them, even though we're the big bad Yankees fans that watch the 95 win teams every year. But I guess me being a local kind of plays a part into that. I love Adley Rutschman. He's super fun. I was a big fan of Santander last year. Mullins, I feel like, has kind of fallen off a cliff in a way because, Peter, we saw a top 5 center fielder in baseball last year out of Cedric Mullins, like you mentioned, with the 30-30 season. And now he's a complete shell of himself. And I do agree. I think they need to sell high with this player because I don't think that he's going to want to stay long-term with this team regardless. And I don't think the Orioles are going to want to pay him when that time comes. So I think it's time. I think they need to sell him off. The Orioles are fun. And, you got to feel bad for him because with this gauntlet of a division, like, what are they really going to do?
I know. I feel bad for him. I feel really bad about Grayson Rodriguez. Like, that is a huge blow to this organization because he really is. I mean, you're splitting hairs here with him and Shane Baz, but regardless, they're 2 of the top pitching prospects in baseball. The Rays just got him back, but the Orioles will lose Grayson Rodriguez. We won't be able to get to see him this year, but next year he's going to come up and he's going to start dominating the league. So that'll do it for the Monday edition of State of the Division. In the AL East, we got the Yankees in first place, 43-16, the Blue Jays at 34-24, the Rays at 34-25, Red Sox at 31-29, Orioles in last place at 25-35. Sam, do you have any notes on the AL East before we say goodbye?
Go Yankees. That's about it.
Go Yankees. We'll talk to you all soon. And with that, thank you, everybody.